Have you ever come across like a creator online that just makes you think, whoa, like how could ideas be presented?
Yeah.
That's what we're talking about today.
Okay.
We're doing a deep dive into the Liat Show.
Right.
It's created by Liat Portal, and it's this really interesting blend of storytelling and like all these different topics.
Interesting.
All kind of infused with her Israeli heritage.
Okay.
And she does it in this way where the episodes are released in sets.
Right.
But they're also readable, like from the start, as like a flowing narrative.
Yeah.
So it's almost like a novel, but it's also like a blog and a podcast all in one.
So it's kind of hard to pin down exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Like, what is this thing?
And that seems to be a running theme with Liat herself.
Yeah.
It's hard to even describe her as like a creator.
Right.
Because she does so many different things.
Mm-hmm.
In her About section on her website, she talks about being intensely curious.
Okay.
And drawing inspiration from her father, who was an architect, but also like a master storyteller.
Interesting.
And she weaves all these topics into her work.
Yeah.
History, science, entrepreneurship, art, food.
Really runs the gamut.
She even has like glimpses into the future.
Interesting.
It's kind of wild.
So what do you think about her claim that she's creating things that the world hasn't seen before?
I mean, it's a bold statement.
It is.
I think that it could be seen as creative marketing, but I also think there's something genuinely unique in how she blends all these different elements together.
Yeah.
And especially in her use of storytelling.
Okay.
She doesn't just use it to entertain.
Right.
She actually uses it to tackle kind of complex topics. For example, there's a piece she did called A Joke's Worth 1,000 Words.
Okay.
Have you ever seen the movie Life of Brian?
Oh, yeah, of course. The People's Front of Judea.
Right.
The classic.
Like that. Well, actually, the scene that Liat focuses on is a different one.
Oh, okay.
It's the one where they're satirizing all the things that the Romans supposedly did for society.
Right.
And she uses this scene as like a jumping off point to discuss how we often overlook the positives of those in power, even empires.
Even empires. Okay.
And then she draws a parallel to historical views of the British and French mandates in the Middle East.
That's a pretty bold comparison.
Yeah.
I mean, is it really valid to compare those two things?
I think it's definitely a comparison that could spark some debate.
Yeah.
Is it oversimplifying things to use humor, especially in like a historical context? I mean, I think that's a fair point. But I think that to her credit, Liat does acknowledge that colonialism is a really complex issue.
Right.
She's not saying that we should have like a whitewashed view of history.
Okay.
But she's raising this question of whether we can acknowledge both the negative and the positive impacts of empires, even those that were built on exploitation.
Right.
Which is, a thought-provoking approach.
Yeah, it is.
I think it really highlights how she's trying to use storytelling as a tool to challenge assumptions.
Yeah.
And make people think a little bit differently.
Okay.
And she also weaves in these personal anecdotes which make it more relatable.
Okay.
So, for example, in this piece, she talks about how her father loved the Beatles and how George Harrison actually funded Life of Brian when nobody else would.
Wow.
Which is a really cool little tidbit.
Yeah.
And just brings a personal touch to this much larger narrative.
So it brings it home.
Yeah.
It makes it real.
Exactly.
It reminds us that history is made up of people's stories.
Right.
Not just dates and names and facts.
And speaking of stories.
Yeah.
Have you seen the piece she did called Where Will Fate Take Us Next?
I don't know if I've seen that one.
Oh, it's really interesting.
Okay.
It's basically like a glimpse into the future. And she imagines this futuristic school where learning happens through these life-size interactive mirrors.
Whoa.
So no VR headsets or anything.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's really cool.
But like, what about data security and stuff?
That's a great point.
Yeah.
And actually, Leia addresses that in the story.
Oh, okay.
She explains how this amazing technology is vulnerable to hacking.
Oh, right.
And that's why in her narrative, students can only join this school through a physical portal.
I see.
Which is such a clever play on words because it's referencing both like a physical location and like a digital gateway.
That is clever.
And it's like she's taking these current anxieties about technology and kind of projecting them into this future where the lines between physical and digital are even more blurred.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
So how does this Reno Raines character fit into all of this?
Well, so the board members of this school need to find replacements for themselves.
Okay.
But because of this whole hacking threat,
Right.
they can't just use traditional recruiting methods.
Got it.
So they bring in this ultra-secretive headhunter, Reno Raines,
Okay.
who has all these really elaborate and almost comical protocols
Uh-huh.
to make sure that he's not dealing with bots.
So, like, what kind of protocols are we talking about?
So, for example, he makes them meet him at Macy's
What?
wearing jungle costumes
No way.
while knowing the names of all the Ninja Turtles.
Oh my God.
That's hilarious.
It's pretty wild.
That's amazing.
But it's like this really interesting commentary
Right.
on how even in this super technologically advanced future, human connection and trust are still paramount.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's not all about the tech.
Totally.
So by now, you're probably thinking, this all sounds really fascinating, but how do I actually get in on this? How do I experience the Liat Show?
Right.
And that's the beauty of it.
What is?
It's super accessible.
Oh, like you can just search for the Liat Show
Uh-huh.
or Liat Portal Podcast on Google or YouTube.
Oh, wow.
And it'll bring up a ton of content.
Okay.
You'll find her Substack,
Mhm.
which is where she has her written episodes
Right.
and links to her podcast on other platforms.
Cool.
So it's really easy to find.
That's awesome.
It really highlights how innovative Liat is
Yeah,
with her approach to content creation.
definitely.
It's not just a blog.
Right.
It's not just a podcast. It's like its own thing.
It's like she created her own genre.
Yeah.
I love that.
But the question
Yeah.
is it truly something new? Or is it a clever repackaging of existing formats? That's for you to decide.
Oh, okay.
We encourage you to check it out for yourself
Yeah.
and see what you think.
Okay, I will.
One thing that really struck me diving into the Liat Show was how she brings in her Israeli heritage
Yeah.
into the storytelling.
Huh?
And it's not just the topics she chooses.
Right.
It's like the way she kind of weaves them together.
That's interesting.
It feels very much rooted in that culture.
I mean, storytelling is like a big part of Israeli culture, right?
Yeah.
Like it's got such a rich oral tradition
Yeah.
passed down through generations.
It's like she's taking that tradition and giving it this modern digital twist.
It's true.
And the cool thing is it's not just about her sharing her stories.
Right.
She's actually encouraging her audience
Yeah.
to engage
Yeah.
and contribute their own interpretations.
So it's like a two-way street.
Exactly.
It's not just her talking at you.
And it creates this sense of community
Mm-hmm.
that I think is often missing in the digital space.
Yeah, because there's so much content out there.
Right.
But it's not always easy to connect with it on a deeper level.
It's like we're constantly being bombarded with information,
Right.
but we don't really have the opportunity to process it
Yeah,
or discuss it.
totally.
And that's what I think is so cool about Liat's approach.
Yeah,
It's not just about passive consumption.
right.
It's
Yeah.
about actively participating in the creation of meaning.
And that brings us back to why we were talking about searching for her show.
Yeah.
Because that act of searching is kind of the first step to becoming part of that community.
Exactly.
It's like opening a door to this whole world of ideas and perspectives.
And you can engage with Liat's work. You can explore different viewpoints.
Right.
And you might even discover something new about yourself.
It's a journey.
It is.
And it all starts with a simple search.
That's what I love about it.
What is?
It's like this really low barrier to entry.
Yeah.
But the potential rewards are huge.
Right.
It's not just about entertainment. It's about challenging ourselves to think differently
I love that.
and to see the world through a new lens.
It's like she's giving you a new pair of glasses to see the world with.
Exactly.
And that's so valuable,
It is.
especially in today's world.
Yeah, where everything feels so noisy and overwhelming.
Right.
Liat's approach is like this breath of fresh air.
It's like she's saying,
Yeah.
hey, slow down, take a deep breath,
Yeah.
engage with these ideas,
Yeah.
and see where they take you.
And speaking of taking us somewhere new,
Yeah.
let's circle back to that piece about the future of education.
Okay.
Where will fate take us next?
Right, right.
We talked about the mirror-based learning
Yeah.
and the security concerns. But the thing that I found really fascinating was the whole recruitment process for the board members
Yeah, oh, yeah.
with Reno Raines.
Reno Raines.
It was so out there,
I know.
but it was also like weirdly relatable.
Well, I mean, it speaks to our anxieties, right?
Blood.
About technology and trust.
It's like imagine a world where you have to go through all these hoops,
Right.
like wearing Jundle costumes and knowing Ninja Turtle trivia just to prove you're a real person.
It's crazy.
It is crazy.
But it's also kind of funny.
Right.
Like, it makes you laugh.
But it makes you think, too.
Yeah, it does.
It highlights the importance of human judgment and intuition.
Yeah.
Even in this world that's so reliant on algorithms and data. Because ultimately, technology is a tool.
That's right.
It's up to us how we use it.
That's Liat's message, right?
Yeah.
Even in a futuristic setting, human connection and discernment are still essential.
They're key.
It's a message that resonates.
It does.
Especially now.
Yeah, with technology advancing so rapidly.
And if you're interested in exploring these ideas further, Liat Show is a great place to start.
Absolutely.
Just search for The Liat Show or Liat Portal Podcast.
It's a journey worth taking.
It is.
And it might just change the way you think about technology, storytelling, and the human experience.
I love it.
Okay, so we've spent this whole deep dive exploring the really unique world of The Liat Show.
Right. It's this fascinating blend of like Israeli culture and history and storytelling.
Yeah, and even glimpses into the future.
It's hard to pin down exactly what it is.
Which I think is part of what makes it so cool.
Yeah, like she's created her own genre almost.
And it's not just about her sharing her perspective.
Right. It's about inviting the audience to engage.
Yeah, to like challenge their own assumptions and see the world through this different lens.
It's a reminder that storytelling can be more than just entertainment.
Exactly.
It can be a way to connect with people.
And to like explore ideas and perspectives you might not have considered before.
And ultimately to make sense of this crazy world we live in.
And that brings us back to like why we wanted to do this deep dive in the first place.
Yeah, we want to help people discover The Liat Show.
And experience it for themselves.
Because it's really something special.
So how can our listeners find it?
Well, it's actually really easy.
Okay, good.
All you have to do is go to Google or YouTube. And search for The Liat Show or Liat Portal Podcast.
And that'll bring up all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, you'll find her Substack where she publishes the written episodes.
Right, and links to her podcast on other platforms.
There's a ton of content to explore.
Some of it's free, some of it's subscriber supported.
But we encourage you to just dive in.
Yeah, find what speaks to you.
Challenge yourself to think differently.
Maybe even discover a new perspective on something you thought you already knew.
That's the beauty of The Liat Show.
It's not about giving you all the answers.
It's more about asking the right questions.
And sparking that curiosity.
To get you thinking and exploring on your own.
And who knows, maybe you'll be inspired to share your own stories.
Yeah, to add your voice to the conversation.
And become a part of this amazing community.
So take that first step.
Do a quick search.
And see where the journey takes you.
We think you'll be glad you did.
We do too.